Good afternoon, everyone. Being how it is 2 o'clock, I will call to order the February 20th meeting of the Development Waiver Review Committee. Let me get to an agenda. We'll start with some introductions. My name is Ann Lippman, and I am the Community Development Director and the chairperson of this committee. Anyone who is speaking, please address all of your comments directly to me and to no one else. And at this time, I will ask the other members up here to turn on their microphones and introduce themselves.
I'm Jason Phillips. I'm the county attorney. I'm not a member of the committee. I'm just here as a legal advisor.
Ray Wooten, Director of Water.
George Jones, Director of Transportation.
Bruce Coyle, County Engineer.
Frank Baker, County Manager.
Thank you all. We have 2 items on our agenda today. The first is to review minutes from the January 16th, 2024 meeting. I trust that everyone has had a chance to review those. And if there are no additions or corrections, I will call for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes made by Mr. Baker and seconded by Mr. Jones. Are there any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? There are none. The minutes are approved unanimously. We have one agenda item today. It is an application that was tabled from our January public meeting. It is case number 2024-01-W, an appeal. Application by Bloom Parham LLP requesting an appeal pursuant to the Paulding County Development Regulations, Section 14.5.1, subsection 3, with regard to a second lift station at Pine Hills Trail. Property is located in land lots 669 through 701, 740 to 741, 770 to 773, 812 to 816, 842 to 844, 884 to 885, District 3, Section 3, located at 7 Hills Boulevard, located in Post 4. Our records note that we received one call with questions regarding the waiver and rezoning, and at this time, we will bring this item off the table, and I will ask the applicant if they have anything they would like to present to the committee.
Hi, everyone. Andrea Pearson from Bloom Parham. I was here last month on behalf of Walton, Georgia LLC. I also have here in the room this afternoon Mr. Anthony Sparrow from Walton, Mr. Ryan Walker from D.R. Horton, and Mr. Kyle Traylor from Fisher Homes. And we are here on the appeal to not allow a second lift station at Pine Hill Trails. And I don't intend to rehash everything that I went over at the last meeting, so just going to incorporate those legal arguments that I raised last time, and just wanted to address a few of the issues that came up at the last meeting, and I think give a little more background or detail on the project. So at the last meeting, Mr. Wooten introduced or provided a September 16, 2019 letter for Mr. Barrett Howell to Lori Ashmore at the county. And I just wanted to point out a few things about that letter, and I think it does actually provide some very helpful context to the preceding events that ultimately culminated in the county's entering into a development agreement for this property. So in that letter, the landowners at the time, which were 2 separate tracts, were partners that presented several solutions to establish sewer service for the project, and they gave the county 3 different potential options for providing sewer to the project, and those are outlined in Mr. Wooten's letter. One of those options was the gap sewer solution that is ultimately included in the development agreement. So if you look at page 2 of the letter, Mr. Howell said that we discussed and agreed that the best choice at this juncture was to pursue expeditiously the steps needed to take to create the gap sewer solution. And the letter also says, and Mr. Wooten pointed out, that we discussed that an existing lift station would be eliminated. This is in point number 4 on page 2, would be eliminated, benefiting the county due to the installation of the gap sewer. This would save the county significant dollars in maintenance issues. So this identifies one lift station that would be taken offline for the project. Doesn't say anything about having to take off a second lift station for the project in order to get sewer to the property. So again, this is consistent with our position that the development of the sewer was critical for this project. Everyone at the outset acknowledged that. They discussed some potential options and decided that the gap sewer was the best way to get sewer to the project. Then, if you look at the development agreement, it was entered into 2 months after this letter. And the development agreement serves multiple purposes for the benefit of the property and for the county. If you look at the, I guess the sewer development agreement is attached to the transportation development agreement, but the transportation development agreement on page 2, in the second paragraph, specifically says that the November 2019 development agreement for gap sewer was an agreement which ensures the provision of sewer to the property. So again, showing the parties' intention that the development agreement is what they had agreed upon for the infrastructure improvements required in order to get sewer to the project. And then turning to the development agreement itself, it identifies, and first of all, the development agreement was accepted and signed by the Board of Commissioners as a binding agreement for the project. So on the first page of that development agreement, it identifies some of the issues that the county was facing with respect to sewer and related to this project and the county as a whole, and that this development agreement was the best solution for those issues. It identifies that there's currently a gap of approximately 8,700 feet requiring the use of a regional lift station, which pumps to the Copper Mine Water Reuse Facility in Hiram via the New Hope commercial area. The next paragraph says the elimination of the Possum Creek Regional Lift Station and the construction of the Possum Creek Gap Sewer will allow the sewer in this basin to flow north to the Pumpkin Vine Water Reuse Facility and free up treatment capacity in the Copper Mine Water Reuse Facility. The next page identifies that the county desires to extend gravity sewer service in the Possum Creek Basin to assist in expanding economic development, remedy existing sewer issues in the New Hope commercial area, and further expand sewer access within the county. So those are some of the goals that the development agreement was and is intended to address, and the benefits to the county and to the project in implementing the development agreement. The development agreement identifies that the estimated cost to construct the gap sewer is approximately $2 million. The county's commitment for the development agreement is capped at $1 million approximately. So any overruns over that amount will be the responsibility of the landowner and developer. So there is going to be infrastructure provided to the county in at least an amount of $1 million as a result of this development agreement, and solves for multiple problems identified by the county and agreed to by the landowner in order to get sewer to its project. So there was no policy in place or trying to be implemented or executed by the county of no net lift stations at the time of this development agreement. The purpose of the development agreement was to solve for these larger issues and solves for bigger problems than just simply the issue of costs of maintaining an extra lift station. And I guess with respect to, there were some questions about kind of maybe graphically how this was going to work. So there's a few additional pages in front of you, a picture that looks like this. It's kind of an extra handout that I put up there. So this is a color-coded version of the attachment A to the development agreement. And it shows that the existing gravity sewer that is currently in place is in the brown on the graphic. The gap sewer that will be constructed as a result of the development agreement is in the green. You will see the existing Possum Creek lift station, which is the triangle kind of right in the middle of where the brown and the green intersect. So basically that shows you that the how the gap sewer is going to connect the existing gravity sewer to the existing gravity on the south side to the existing gravity sewer kind of on the north side of the picture. If you look at the other graphic that I provided behind, and I will say this is a slightly outdated figure, but it was the best we had to show you. If you look at the kind of the blue property tract that says Abney Township, you'll see where the existing gravity sewer will tie in to the project. And the sewer is intended to flow using the existing gravity sewer, and then we'll be able to turn north to the new gap sewer and flow to the Pumpkin Vine water reuse facility instead of to the New Hope the Copper Vine water reuse facility through the New Hope area, which is shown in the red in the other graphic. So that was kind of what we wanted to show you guys. I know there were some questions about how exactly the flow of the sewer is going to work under the development agreement. I also wanted to make the point that the county rezoned approximately half of this property to master plan residential in January of 2021. And in order to be zoned master plan residential, there's a requirement that public sanitary sewer shall be available for the development. So the county would not and could not have rezoned half of the project to NPR if sewer was not available. And sewer is made available through the development agreement, and the county's understanding of that fact is shown by the rezoning of the property to NPR back in 2021. And this is a decision of whether the development can proceed with a second lift station based on the specific facts of this project. Looking at the development agreement that's in place, the zoning history for the property, and Walton's vested rights, we believe that the decision should be made that the project can proceed with a second lift station. So kind of to summarize, I went over a lot of legal reasons last month why we think that the county cannot implement or enforce the lift station policy against this project. We also believe that the development agreement solves the issue of how to sewer the property and solves for other larger scale issues for the county. And we would request that the county not lose sight of the forest for the trees by focusing on the lift station maintenance issue when the development agreement provides for much larger scale solutions for sewer issues in this part of the county. So we would ask you to uphold the development agreement and allow the project to proceed with 2 lift stations.
This time, if anybody on the committee has any questions, please, for the applicant, please go ahead.
Okay, you state that everything about the gap sewer, which is in the letter I gave you, they're saying that, the best choice is the gap sewer. Article 4 says, we discussed an existing lift station would be eliminated, benefiting the county through the installation of the gap sewer. This would save the county significant dollars in maintenance issues, which is what you stated. The letter says, hey, that makes the gap great because the county has a reduced maintenance cost. With one pump station your increase in the maintenance cost. In my discussion in 2023, the very start of 2023, we asked about having the one station be joined together where you show your two outfalls. And, I mean, I never really heard the answer from that. And I was wondering, do you have any correspondence from the Thompson tract that you show here that is now Thompson Estate as to why you don't have the ability to put one pump station in instead of two?
So my understanding of the reason that there is a need for the second pump station or lift station is due to the topography of the property. That you have to have the second lift station to get it from the top portion of the property to the lower portion of the property. That it's required due to the elevation of the property, and it's not possible to do the project with just one lift station.
Without going to the Thompson tract?
So what, the Thompson tract you're referring to, the Thompson tract is not currently a part of this project. The Thompson tract is no longer a part of this property. So it is not an available option. We're talking about developing the two pieces, the Sheffield Trails and the Abney Township. Those are the pieces of property that Walton owns.
Okay. Well, this was part of initial discussions that we had, 1 versus 2, back in the water offices. Let me switch over. So you're saying, I don't see where it says, other than we're eliminating a station, which makes the gap sewer a wonderful project, then all of a sudden we've got one pump station where we have maintenance cost, and now you want a second one. I mean, you're talking $50,000 a year. That's normal maintenance cost, pump replacement cost, electrical cost, decommissioning cost. Is Walton prepared to pay for all those costs? Or,
Well, at the point of turnover, those are dedicated to the county.
is Walton going to pay for those costs?
I'm not aware of any, and that's not something that would be contemplated by the county's regulations. If I remember correctly, the county's regulations require turnover of the lift station to the county for maintenance.
So you want to not do extra work and transfer that cost onto ratepayers? I mean, we're talking, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over, for maintenance purposes, to basically add a second pump station that you expect us to pay for.
Which is my understanding, the county has lift stations currently that it maintains. I don't think that Walton would be required to pay the cost to maintain something that the regulations required be turned over to the county, and the county maintains throughout the county on other projects. And I would say that, again, here, it's our position that the development agreement sets forth what the required off-site infrastructure improvements are, and it identifies taking off one lift station. And that was the agreement, as shown by the letter and indicated otherwise, for how the parties reached the resolution for how sewer was going to get to this project, which the county agreed to due to the multiple benefits that would be created by the development agreement to the county.
Well, I've read these agreements. I can't find anywhere where we're agreeing to add all these pump stations. Can you answer a question that I asked last time? We've got a different map here that's not the same map we had last time. It's a new CS 1.0, and it also says that due to the extreme topographical elements, multiple lift stations are required for this development.
Sorry, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at the map that you submitted, It's not the same CS 1.0 that we had last time. It's a new CS 1.0. It's this map you see right here.
Yes, which is the same one we discussed last time.
It was not the one that was part of the last package.
It was the supplemental site plan that we provided and that was discussed at the last meeting. This graphic specifically was on the board at the last meeting. If
So-
I didn't, this isn't mine, so the county had to have had it because I didn't put it up on the screen.
Okay. Was this submitted as part of the package? This-
That is the
There's been
updated,
several versions. That's sort of been, there's been several versions that we've seen. I don't know which one is the,
so
this is not the one that is, what is shown on this green does not appear at all to be what was included with the application.
because, correct, we submitted a site plan with
So
the
you
original
submitted-
application.
Okay.
And then you guys asked for the larger copies. You required the larger copies.
Well,
so
they're
we-
different.
Yes, correct, they are. And we talked about this one last time.
And my question again to you, both of them, every one that I've seen, has the note, due to extreme topographical elements.
If you can identify where you're reading from, so she can see on the diagram where you're reading from.
Got a note right here. It's note 6 on this one.
Yes,
In the last meeting, it was the same note 6.
yes.
And it says multiple pump stations are required. The exact wording, due to the extreme topographical elements, multiple lift stations are required for this development. And I ask you again, what is the definition of multiple?
I don't have a different answer from last time, that multiple means more than one, and that there are 2 pump stations shown on this site plan. So that is what that multiple is being intended to reference, is that there are 2 pump stations on the site plan. So that is multiple. Multiple is more than one.
Ms. Pearson, if I can just clarify one thing in the form of a question. You've indicated that there are 2 shown on the plan. Your appeal is seeking 2 lift stations.
Correct.
So just to clarify, if you could, you're not seeking more than 2 lift stations for this project?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, one of the items that was in that letter that was sent before, we talked about, or the letter talked about, the pumpkin vine outfall. Have you considered partnering on a possible gravity solution with the partners in your group?
I'm sorry, what partners are you referring to?
The Abney Austin, I guess Abney Township, but you have a parcel that is in blue, a parcel that is in orange. You also have, that's not one of your partners, as you stated, the Thompson Tract and Nature Walk. Have y'all considered partnering?
So, and I did not intend to introduce this alternative sewer site plan to create confusion. The Thompson Estate property is not at issue here and not a partner of Walton and not a piece of property that Walton owns. So that is not a discussion that I'm aware that's been had. They are not current, the current piece of property that Walton owns relates to the Sheffield Trails in the Abney Township. So that's what's at issue here and what we are requesting. The scope of our request relates to those 2 tracts, which are subject to the appeal.
Okay, so we're not looking at a regional solution, you're looking at having a second pump station. Let me ask you about the gap sewer. Have y'all received an LDP on the gap sewer yet?
I could be corrected, but I believe these conversations were beginning to be had, which is when the issue arose regarding the second lift station. I believe they were moving forward to working on that, and then we received the administrative decision that a second lift station could not be used. So that it has not been able to proceed from there due to the decision that a second lift station was not possible.
I just have a question. You know, the last meeting, you were, I don't think it's in your request, but overall, you were expressing you were not going to participate in the gap sewer, which takes Possum Creek Lift Station out, which means if you remove one, you add two, you've only added one, essentially by removing it. And I just wanted to make sure, you participating, is your client participating in the gap sewer outfall Possum Creek Lift Station closure?
So to understand, my understanding is they intend to participate in the development agreement, which would be the gap sewer.
You are, okay. Last meeting, I understood you said you did not want to participate in the gap sewer.
No, I think our position is the gap sewer is what the development agreement agreed to.
Great.
Yes. So the gap sewer is what they said, we will do the gap sewer in order to get sewer to our project.
Yeah, 'cause your two pump station pump to the gap
Correct.
sewer.
Correct. So that was our regional solution or, solution for the area.
So essentially, you're adding one lift station, taking another one out of service.
Correct. And then the appeal request is relating to the additional lift station.
Ms. Pearson, I want to follow up on a question that Mr. Wooten asked. Mr. Wooten made reference to this, glasses on so I can read. One of the exhibits you brought in today, it's sheet number SS1. It has the properties with the three colors. And you made clarification that on the Thompson tract, the one identified in pink, that you didn't intend to confuse the issue by introducing that. The question that I have for you, and I'm just a lawyer, I don't pretend to be an engineer. If in the Thompson tract, and I know that's not who you represent, but if it was feasible to put a lift station in partnership with them at that location, and that lift station would eliminate the need for an additional pump station, is that something that, to your knowledge, has there been any sort of communication or exploration as to that being a possibility as a potential solution to this quandary?
I do not have knowledge of that being discussed as a solution, and I would say, again, and I'm repeating myself a little bit, but I think that the parties agreed to what the solution was, and the solution was the development agreement, which has, and that's the purpose of this exhibit, was to show the flow and where it was intended to tie in and what the flow of the sewer was going to be. So that was the intent behind this exhibit, was just to generally show where the sewer is going to flow under the development agreement. So again, I think the Thompson Estate property or project is not at issue here and wouldn't be relevant to the issue that we're deciding here.
Okay, so if you were to say, you've indicated, in your opinion, it's not relevant to the issue to be decided here. If hypothetically, if that were to create a solution, is that something that your clients would be at least interested in exploring?
Standing here right now, I can't answer that
Understand.
question.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. And are your clients here in the room today?
Yes.
All right. If you want to take time to talk with them, You can feel free to do that, and if you don't want to, that's your choice.
I think that, again, that's kind of a totally different question that I could discuss with them, but I don't think right now is making a decision or
Okay.
responding to that right now would be appropriate.
And you do, excuse me, understand, under the gap sewer agreement, you're only allowed 100-something lots till the gap sewer's in place. You know, it does restrict your project to 100 lots till the
And
off-site work is complete.
until that is implemented.
You
correct.
understand that fully.
How many, well, what I'm saying is this, I understand it hasn't been fully designed or has it been designed? Where are your force mains actually traveling?
Can you be a little more specific about your question?
Is there a force main from the lift station that is shown as lift station number 1? Does that travel to Pumpkin Vine? Does it travel to Coppermine?
My understanding is that it will all travel to Pumpkin Vine.
It will all travel to Pumpkin Vine. Okay. What about the area in gray that's shown on the other side of the ridge?
Are you
Pod G.
on that one? Okay. Pod G?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my understanding is that that is what is the solution proposed for the entire project.
In other words, just, the 2 pump stations, that's all, I understand. I mean, because part of what we have, like it was mentioned earlier, is there's a certain number of lots that can go to the south, and that's it. Regardless of if the gap's done, because we have restrictions in the pipe that go across. So let me ask you a few other questions. Have y'all ever seen this document that's called the Master Sewer Study and Plan?
I have not personally reviewed that document in detail.
Okay. Several meetings involving several staff from Walton, from the design engineer, from LaCroix. We all discussed, and we actually sent links to where this study was. And one of the things that we're talking about is there was Resolution 0627 that was approved where the Paulding County Master Sewer Study and Plan dated August 2006 is hereby adopted as official plan and development specifications for Paulding County sanitary sewer system. Goes on to say this shall utilize the master sewer plan in the design of necessary sewer infrastructure. The resolution 0627 refers to this plan, and this plan has numerous references. I'll read a few. With installation, recommended piping improvements, 31 lift stations can be removed.
Mr. Wooten, can you just slow your voice down just a little bit, because there's a court reporter taking it down.
I apologize.
Thank you.
Okay. The Master Sewer Study and Plan has a number of references to the elimination of pump stations. I'm going to read a few. With the installation of the recommended piping improvements, 31 lift stations can be removed from service, which will reduce operations and maintenance costs for the system. That's in ES3. Later on page 1.2, talking about the examination of lift station usage. The evaluation was used to determine which of the sewer lift stations could be decommissioned by providing alternate means of wastewater transport, such as diversion to an alternate treatment facility or connection to nearby outfall sewers. Additionally, lift station consolidation was evaluated to determine if a regional lift station approach could be employed. Going to jump to another section on Pumpkin Vine Sewer Service Area Infrastructure Assessment. Reducing the number of lift stations in a system typically reduces the overall amount of operation and maintenance cost. Further, on page 316, talking about future collection system improvements. Improvements to the existing infrastructure within Pumpkin Vine Sewer Service Area are recommended to streamline the current operation of the collection system. The installation of key outfall sewer segments will allow smaller lift stations to be removed from service. This is another document that we're looking closely at because being in my position, my job is try to control costs, bring costs down. That's why I asked if Walton was going to pay for the maintenance and operation costs that are going to be tied to every lift station. And in that letter on item number 4, in the letter I gave you, it talked about reducing. Now I'm taking the one lift station back that said was going to be reduced and a second lift station. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes, and to that point, you mentioned that this master plan was in August of 2006, is that correct? The resolution that you're referencing? So that was well in advance of the development agreement in 2019, which the Board of Commissioners entered into with knowledge of that master plan and said, here is what we're agreeing to. And again, it did. It agreed to the elimination of a lift station. So it does eliminate one lift station and allows the sewer to flow in a different direction. It is going to have the benefit of at least $1 million that the owner developer will undertake to create the gap sewer. So it is going to provide an extremely beneficial monetary and infrastructure benefit to the county through the development agreement.
But it does not say that we will end up with 2 new pump stations on the property.
So in order to sewer the property, for the property to internally have access to sewer, it has to have those 2 lift stations. The landowner developer is not going to agree or do the gap sewer off-site improvements if it cannot actually sewer the project itself within the 4 walls of the project. So it needs those internal infrastructure in order to be able to utilize the external infrastructure that it agreed to provide to the county. So it needs those internal lift stations to be able to take advantage of the external benefits. They're not going to agree to do all that if they can't actually sewer the project.
Do you have a question?
Do you have,
I have one, but.
George, you have a
Has his
question?
finger on it.
Okay, go ahead.
I also, at the previous meeting, had a question about lots. I'm going to apologize in advance that this sounds like a word problem, but that was the best way to do it. The properties in question here are comprised of 3 zoning cases. Austin Abney was 2005-1-Z that zoned the property to PRD for 941 lots. Later in 2005, there was case 2005-27Z that zoned the property to PRD for 12 additional lots, for a total of 953 lots. Pine Hill Trails. 2021-3-Z zoned this property to NPR for 710 lots. My calculations show that those projects merged together is 1,663 lots. We have received, and I'm going to discount that we've received several site plans with different numbers. We have received 2 site plans. The one submitted for this rezoning, or not rezoning, this waiver that I believe is the one up on the screen, states that, well, first of all, that the letter submitted with that states that 537 lots will be lost without a second lift station. And the included site plan shows 1,168 lots. We also have received a site plan stipulation amendment that is also showing the 1,168 lots. 1,168 lots. However, that one states that it's a reduction from 1,303 down to 1,168. So my question is, where are these 537 lots being lost from? And this is really where it sounds like a word problem. There's the original number of 1,663. There's the 1,303 that's stated is the total number of lots in the site plan application, and then there's the 1,168 that is shown on this map.
Okay, so to answer, I believe, that question, is this map is broken up into 2 phases. So if you look at phase 1 lots, those correlate with lift station 1. If you look at phase 2 lots, those correlate with lift station 2. So in the picture you're looking at right now, it says total lots, phase 2, 502. So our original letter, the number of 537, was based on that original site plan that we submitted, which has now been amended to this current site plan in front of you. So the lots lost, if there is no second lift station, is the 502 lots shown in phase 2.
So all of phase 2 would be lost.
Correct.
Could not be developed. Okay, thank you. That clarifies my question. Any other questions?
I do. In the development agreement between Pine Hill, Abney, Austin, and Paulding County, it discusses the elimination of a Possum Creek lift station. I don't see anything in here where it talks about the addition of a lift station. Is there any language in here?
There is not specifically anything in the development agreement itself that talks about adding a lift station, because this is discussing the off-site sewer improvements and not the internal sewer improvements. But I went over a number of zoning conditions from the multiple rezonings that do contemplate lift stations on the project. If you want me to revisit those, I can, but
Again, I just wanted to point out that fact, and also, again, on the next page, is the county wishes to extend gravity sewer service. Doesn't say anything about lift stations.
right, which
And I think, and again, also, I think at the start, you had discussed this, basically a property being zoned and sewer requirements and sewer being available or in place. There's been multiple properties zoned in the county over the years without sewer in place or even a sewer solution at the time, but they've been essentially rezoned and basically were then waited until there was a sewer solution in place. So that hasn't been one of the items we've looked at in terms of denying zonings in Paulding County.
Okay. Well, I was just, the master plan residential regulations themselves require that sanitary sewer shall be available. So that's what I was pointing out. For that specific zoning category, it is a requirement for sewer to be available. So that was my comment.
Yeah, I think those originally went through in the 2004, 2005, 2006 time period as different rezonings.
Yeah. The rezoning now does not guarantee anything. It just shows where the outfall is. I've got a number of letters here, oh, excuse me, I've got a number of letters here talking about, sorry, I'm shorter than most. I've got some letters here dated July 27th, 2018, talking about the Pumpkin Vine Creek outfall sewer is the preferred option to service the subject tracks. But it says that
Mr. Wooten,
I don't know what he's-
can you identify who the
Okay.
letter is from and who it is to?
Okay. Got a letter dated July 27th, 2018 from Jane Austin, asking general partner Abney Austin Investments LP regarding Abney Austin Township Tract alternative sewer routing validation, of which that is who the recipient of the letter is. It's from the Director of Water, talking about Pine Hill Investments, Abney Austin Township, and Thompson Tracts, and say that they lie within our mandatory service area, sewer service area. These tracts are estimated to have a total of 1,750 lots. And it says the Pumpkin Vine Creek sewer outfall is the preferred option to service these tracts. It says, however, if the Pumpkin Vine Creek outfall sewer is not included to be operational for discharge within 12 months of submission of preliminary plat, the alternative sewer routing proposed in the reference documents is acceptable, conditioned on your construction of the Gap and Possum Creek outfall sewer and other sewer infrastructure improvements identified in the plan. Will the Pumpkin Vine Creek, the Gap, be installed prior to construction of your lots?
First of all, I'd just like to state, I don't have a copy of what you're reading. I've never seen what you're reading. I'm not saying it will change anything. I just want to reflect, like, I don't know what
Oh.
he's referring to.
Can I give you a copy?
Sure.
And Ms. Lippman, would you make sure a copy of that letter gets into the record for this, as well as a copy of the 2006 Master Sewer Study and Plan?
Okay.
So I would refer you back to the provision of the development agreement that Mr. Jones pointed out, that the landowners are able to discharge 115 equivalent residential units to the Possum Creek Lift Station prior to completion of the Possum Creek Gap Sewer. And I don't have the background for this document to give you a lot of context for this.
Okay.
So to the extent this contemplates something additional,
No,
I don't
was
know the
just,
answer.
I
I
was
mean,
just looking at timing.
right.
So, like I said, before any plat or anything is issued for anything other than 115 residential units, the gap has to be complete.
That is my reading of the development agreement. But it would be able to get that, you would be able to discharge up to that amount before the completion.
Yes, but no preliminary plat based on that letter.
And that's contemplating if the Pumpkin Vine Creek outfall sewer is not scheduled to be operational. You
Correct.
can use this as an alternative routing, so I think this just gives them an option or availability if that sewer outfall has not actually been completed prior to that time. So it
Right.
actually wouldn't hold up the development.
What I'm saying, it was allow for that if they had not received it. That's the reason we went forward with a gap. So based on the letter, what I'm saying is the gap sewer will be constructed. You'll have 125 lots before a preliminary plat.
You can't have the lots before the preliminary plat.
No, excuse me, preliminary plat for 115 lots. Is that correct?
I don't think that's correct, because you'd have to have the preliminary plat before you could develop any of the lots.
Okay, let's, all right. And let me restate that Walton is not prepared to pay for any maintenance costs whatsoever related to the request for a second pump station. They expect the county to pay for all the maintenance and upkeep.
Per the county's regulations that require them to be turned over to the county.
Okay.
Ms.
Um,
And
Pearson,
can I
just to-
take a
just to
moment
clarify-
just to
Ab-
confirm?
Absolutely, yeah.
And just make sure I haven't
Let me-
overstated.
Before you do, just to clarify that last statement, so I make sure that we're clear on what your position is and what the county's position is. You have indicated that if the county accepts the lift station for perpetual maintenance, then that will be the obligation of Paulding County to maintain and operate. The question, I think, that is before the committee today is whether or not the county is willing to take acceptance of an additional lift station. And I think the county, I think they've stated that some of the concern is the costs, so they would prefer not to take that on so that they don't have to engage in perpetual maintenance. And your position is, well, if the county does do that, then that's not Walton's obligation or any private partner's obligation, unless there's a development agreement stating otherwise.
That is correct.
Thank you.
At this point, everyone, we are going to take a 5-minute break. So we will resume, we'll say at 3 o'clock. Take an 8-minute break.
So that's another question. And what do you mean by paying for maintenance fees? Is that a perpetual request, or what is the question exactly?
I will try to answer, there were a few questions. I'm just going to answer them in order, and you can check them off.
Sure.
One question you had, are there any private lift stations? We have no private lift stations that serve multiple single-family units, except where we may have a one-owner, as in Hardy Springs, where they have units but not separately sold lots. Otherwise, the only private lift stations serve independent independent buildings. Like you may have one for Starbucks, you may have one, but they're all privately owned because it's only one private individual, not where they're public. If they're a situation where they have multiple people, it has to be a one owner that owns everything. And they generally sell them, it's more rental of units versus single-family ownership. So no private pump stations. As far as payment, what you're asking us to consider is to add cost to the ratepayers, not to county taxes, but to ratepayers on the water and sewer system. That's who you're asking to increase the rates on. So when you talk about another cost, it's another cost not handled by taxpayers, but by ratepayers on the water and sewer system. And could you repeat I thought there was a third question?
So just in terms of what you are asking for Walton to pay for maintenance issues, that's a fairly broad request or question. I just don't understand what you mean by that.
It was a general question on adding a pump station has an impact to people. It's not, oh, we're just going to add a pump station for our development. What I was saying is there's a broad impact to the water and sewer system.
Are
It's
you
not
are you
just
trying to
improvement.
ask what would be included in that fee?
Well, I don't think we can answer that question without
But
understanding
is that what
the
your question is?
Yes,
Is what
like-
kind of fees would be included if we were to charge a fee to a developer to install a
Right.
lift
Like
station?
what
would
does
be,
that even mean?
What would be included? What would you charge them, and what would it be based on?
Well, for someone to charge a maintenance fee,
I mean,
You-
there's an electrical charge. I mean, there's electricity that goes associated with a lift station, right?
yeah, what comes associated with a pump station? You have normal maintenance costs where crews come out every week to go and service, make sure everything's functioning, there's no grease buildup, but you have regular routine maintenance that occurs every week. Then you have the cost of replacing pumps for any situation where somebody might flush something down that it could hurt an impeller and tear up an impeller, depending on what kind of damage to the pump. And over time, you have to replace pumps. There are costs related to that. You've got standard electrical costs. Every month, those pumps are running 24/7. There's a cost that you have to pay. In addition, at such time an outfall's put in, now we've got to spend money to decommission the pump station. Not only decommission the pump station, we've also got to take whatever additional pipe to tie it onto a new outfall, and then we decommission the force main. So there's a lot of construction and deconstruction that must occur. And maintenance is perpetual. You're talking, it's not done in 5 years. You're looking at a general cost if you were to go out to a future cost-benefit ratio. I mean, you might look at 25 years.
So I have a couple of responses to that. I would say in terms of the cost going to ratepayers will be the owners and buyers of these homes. They will be paying the rates to maintain the lift station that makes it possible for this development to be put in the ground. I also basically heard you say there's no private lift station for single-family home developments in the county.
Correct.
And then it sounds like you have never invoiced anyone else for perpetual maintenance of a lift station for a development, for a single-family development. So I don't think it would be fair or legal to impose that requirement on Walton in comparison to everyone else who's trying to develop or build in the county. So I think also that the benefits to the region as a result of this project and the installation of the gap sewer, as I've said, will greatly and vastly overcome any concerns or issues with the maintenance costs that arise from adding one additional lift station to the county's lift station inventory. And I think also sometimes you just can't change the topography of a project. Like, we're in a situation with this project that multiple lift stations are required due to the way that the project or way the land slopes, and it is just what it is. So that is what is necessary for this project to move forward.
By multiple, you mean two?
Correct.
Okay.
Does anybody else? Oop, yep, I'm on. Does anybody else have any questions? Are we at the point, Jason, where we can close discussion? Okay, thank you, Ms. Pearson. At this point, we can close the conversation, and I will ask if anyone has a motion on this case.
I make a motion to deny.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Mr. Wooten to deny, which has been seconded by Mr. Baker. I will ask if there are any questions. If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion to deny signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Aye. The motion to deny is carried by a vote of 3-1. That is our only agenda item on today's meeting, so I will call for a vote to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Baker, seconded by Mr. Wooten to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.